let's look at a problem-solving question involving linear systems. So it says here, example 4, Stephanie has 5 more fish in her aquarium than Brett has. The two have a total of 31 fish. How many fish does Stephanie have? How many fish does Brett have? Okay, so I suggest you write this down in your notes. You can pause the video, you know what to do. Okay, so it says in our problem here that Stephanie has 5 more fish in her aquarium. So you have Stephanie and Brett. So first I would suggest let's set up some variables here. I'm just gonna say that B would represent the number of fish that Brett has. So Brett's number of fish. And I'm going to say that S represents Stephanie's number of fish. Okay, so good. So you have these two variables. Okay, so now let's read the problem once again. The problem says that Stephanie has 5 more fish in her aquarium than Brett. So we don't know how many fish does Brett have. Well, let's say that B is the number of, well, we already said this. B is the number of fish that Brett has. But Stephanie has 5 more fish than Brett. So that's what Stephanie's represents. That's the equation that represents the number of fish that Stephanie has. Right? It also says on the problem, if let me bring it up again. On the problem, it says that the two have a total of 31 fish. So the two have a total of 31 fish. That means if you add Stephanie's and Brett's fish, you have a total of 31, right? So if you add Brett's fish plus Stephanie's, you get a total of 31 fish, right? So here, if you take a closer look at this, essentially we're coming up with a system of linear equations. Look at these. All right, so let's rewrite these right here so that it becomes more obvious. So our first equation would be Stephanie's equation. So Brett, this is Stephanie's equation. We don't know how many fish she has. And we also know that Brett and Stephanie have a total of 31 fish. Right? So what we can do is, if this represents Stephanie, and in fact we don't know how many fish does Stephanie have, but we know that this represents Stephanie's number of fish, we can take this and substitute it into our equation, just like before. So let's do that right now. So we substitute equation 1 into equation 2. So we end up with Brett plus, by the way, this is our equation 2. So B plus, now Stephanie is equal to B plus 5. So we would put here B plus 5 equals 31. So now let's start collecting like terms. So B plus B becomes 2B plus 5 equals 31. When you move the 5 to the other side of the equal sign, so plus 5 becomes minus 5. So 31 minus 5 gives us 26. Right? And when we solve for B here, 2 is multiplying, it goes dividing on the other side, so B would be equal to 13. So now we know that Brett has 13 fish. Brett has 13 fish. And now how many fish does Stephanie have? Well, we know that Stephanie has 5 more fish than Brett. So what we can do is we can simply say that, you know, therefore, right, Stephanie has 5 more fish than Brett. So that's what we were looking at before. So we know that Brett has 13. So 13 plus 5 gives us 18 That means Stephanie has 18 fish. Alright, so just to finalize this, we can say that therefore Brett has, I'm not going to write the whole name, has 13 fish, and Stephanie has 18 fish.